To episode 210. I guess I'll start by saying that I'm just becoming just kind of pretty dysfunctional overall. I did a bad thing in my final days on the council. I missed some deadlines for submitting some financial requests, which fucked over the council. I have no excuse for it. It's bad. I'm supposed to be writing. I barely write. All I fucking do is tweet. And this production itself bums me out. I probably will start therapy. My wife is dealing with a lot of stuff with her job and with my mom and with her mom. A lot of stuff causes her anxiety. She's a more naturally anxious person than I am, except that all the stuff going on has just kind of been making me increasingly dysfunctional or just shitty. And I may just start therapy as a way to gain some emotional real estate in the, my territory, that if I've got issues, then I can claim that and around the house. All I do lately is I have a theory about art, and especially kitschy art, that people who have disappointments and chaos in other areas of their lives like pretty shit. But when you go to Michael's craft store, you'll find in the scrapbooking aisle and in the beautiful stuff aisle, people looking to make pretty stuff just to kind of make themselves, to establish beauty and order in their lives. You're a victim of the fall in popularity of realistic representational art. I have a theory about that you people with chaos in their lives and without resources, and who have a lot of sadness in their lives, turn to comforting art, which is realistic art. There's nothing comforting about abstract fucking art. And then abstract art is purchased and appreciated as a fuck you, by people with lots of money and resources and order in their lives. By owning abstract art, you're saying, I have enough order in my life. I can embrace this disorderly, not very comforting so-called art. It's like Thorstein Veblen's theory of the leisure class, that you're not really rich unless you can afford to throw away huge amounts of money on stupid shit, pointless shit. So anyway, feeling, I don't know, not despair, but something in my life that's lacking, I make pretty shit. I made this for Carol. This is insanely pretty. I went on eBay and I bought gemstones for $1 a piece, gigantic gemstones. Thanks to world trade, inequities in world trade, you can buy fantastically large gems from India for $1 a piece, postage included. So I bought a shitload of these, and then I glued them all around a frame. So it's a super sparkly ass thing. That's just super pretty, but it's also just, the artistic value is low. It's just sparkly as shit. And doing it gave me some amount of comfort. Okay, Lance.
God, you've touched on so many issues. I love your sparkly thing. So those weren't plastic, they were real gems?
They're real fake gems. Now, like this was sold as a natural ruby. a flawless, like 38 karat natural ruby that somebody dug out of the ground. Now, if that were, and I bought it for like $2, if it were real, it would be the most valuable gem on earth. There's no such thing as a natural 38 karat flawless ruby, or maybe there's one and it's in some crown someplace. It's not being sold for, it's not, you can't buy it for $2. So it's either glass or it's synthetic ruby, because because natural flawless ruby sells for about $10,000 an ounce, for just for like, I mean, $10,000 a carat for, you know, up to 2 or 3 carats, and then beyond that it gets crazy because they're but synthetic ruby sells rough, unfaceted, sells for a penny a carat. So odds are it's synthetic ruby.
Well, I think you probably got a real one, but you got a great deal.
Yeah.
So, when you talk about art being comforting, I encounter that all the time with my art. My personal paintings and sculptures are not particularly comforting. Basically, I use a lot of dark colors. I paint pictures of men about half the time. Nobody's particularly delighted or happy in my paintings. I don't paint children very often, no puppies. And people want that stuff. And what I tell them is, if you went to see a film and nothing bad happened in the film, wouldn't it be kind of dull? And they say, yeah. And I say, well, why would you want a painting where it's just happy things, just
Well, hold on.
a child holding a puppy at the beach? Wouldn't you want an oil painting that was just a little bit interesting or disturbing in some way? So that's what I do. And so it does tend to cut down your sales, that's for sure.
I think movies were too much. There too much goes on in movies a lot of the time. I like movies where a lot of shit happens, but I also like superhero movies. They're 3 hours long and too much shit happens. I want a superhero movie where nothing happens. They fix the problem in the first 10 minutes and then they just hang out.
That might be interesting. I think what was the one, the fellow that, there's a superhero that makes fun of superheroes.
Deadpool.
Deadpool, yeah, that's I think the best of them. But if we're doing movie reviews, I recently saw Rogue One, the Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And it was the only good one after the first one. So there was the first Star Wars movie, and then after that, they decided that they were going to attract as many children and as big an audience as possible, and the Star Wars went bad. And then Rogue One came, and Rogue One is a proper movie. It's just a normal movie about real people doing real things in a sci-fi world. So I'm amazed. Anyway, go ahead, Rick.
Well, I gotta say that I've been mostly just not. The first one was thrilling because they finally had the technology in 1977 to make a science fiction movie that didn't look like crap.
Yeah.
The only movie set in space that didn't look like crap before that was 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I think was like 1968. Looked great because they spent a shitload of money on it, but it was Stanley Kubrick, and it wasn't an adventure as much as an exploration of themes. So the shit looked great. As opposed to, like, the normal science fiction movie in the 60s and 50s John Carpenter's The Thing. Remember that movie? And then there was a remake.
No, I never saw
Anyway, it's about an
it.
alien who lands in Antarctica.
Well, don't tell people what happens because I'm still gonna see it someday.
Okay, sorry, I'm going to spoil it. It
No,
turns out the alien.
no.
Okay, the alien can take the shape of anything it touches, pretty much. But The Thing,
Are you
and it
done?
was a great movie. It had great
all right.
special effects.
Okay, all right.
But it was a remake of The Thing from like the 50s. And The Thing from the 50s was just a guy running around in a rubber suit that looked like a giant carrot. Science fiction in the 50s and 60s was just low budget shit because they didn't have the technology to make it look decent.
Yeah.
And then Star Wars came along and they finally had all the pieces in place and it had compelling characters. But the characters could only go so far. So I've been unthrilled by every other fucking Star Wars movie.
Did you see Rogue One?
I'm not sure. I don't
No,
think.
you will be surprised because it doesn't have any of the bad qualities that Star Wars took on.
I mean, one thing that's like the Force. There's nothing to it. I mean that as a unifying principle, as a motivating, as a thing that some kind of philosophical structure. There's nothing. There's a lot of nothing in Star Wars. There's a lot of
Don't get
I think
me started.
We probably share a lot of the same frustration.
Yeah, don't get me started on Star Wars. So,
and Ewoks are just they're little teddy bears. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, all right. So, what other topics do we have?
Well, the deal, like the one topic we can to move forward with is that I'm just kind of bummed out and dysfunctional in general. But dysfunctional sounds has excuse making built in. It's kind of a liberal word. So I'm not getting shit done.
Why is that?
Because I don't know. Any reason I give is excuse making. But one thing that is bumming me out is this production, and I think I want to take it to like a once every 2 week thing, because like I'm tired of participating in the promotion of nonsense from your side. Because your side gets increasingly nonsensical and also just more corrosive. I mean, we're 4.5 months into Biden, and Biden, under any reasonable measure, is like a standard president. Like if you look at all the presidents for the history of the presidency, he's an old white guy. I mean, the previous guy was an old white guy too, but like doing just like, kind of behaving. And, Biden has more political experience than any previous president. He's old as fuck. And he's been and when he first came to national elected office, he was about as young as it was possible to legally be. So he's been doing this shit for I don't know, like 10 years longer, I think, than any other president. And that in itself is like normal, and like he's a normal politician because he's been being a politician for fucking forever. And you guys would argue, well, that's the definition of the swamp. But my thinking is he's like doing like political shit and the shit that presidents do, and it feels normal. Now you might hate it because you hate what normal is and you think it's the swamp, but it just kind of feels the way politics works under normal conditions. And then your side is still like, yeah, we're going to get Trump. Trump is himself is saying he's coming back in August because the My Pillow guy told him so. Um, this audit goes on. I guess they say they're now about what 80% done, but they've got like weird methodology and security lapses. And one thing they're looking for is mail-in ballots that haven't been folded. Which, I mean, if you're going to look for shit, that seems reasonable because you get the ballot and the ballot's shaped like this, right? It's a piece of paper. And it comes with an envelope or maybe two envelopes, probably two. You got the privacy envelope, and then you stick the privacy envelope in the mailing envelope, and then you send it in. And obviously the fucking ballot has to be folded to fit in the envelopes. So yeah, if they found like thousands of ballots that don't have any folds, then yeah, that would be in Arizona. That would be, indication of something. But I think they'll find about 5.
Wait. Remember, we're using code words now.
Oh, so we can't say, what do we have to say?
Ballet.
A ballet. Okay, if they
Ballet,
found
like
a ballet
dancing.
that didn't have any folds in it, then
Yeah.
that would be, but I think they'll maybe find 5 because you can never underestimate the stupid shit people will do. I can imagine somebody losing an envelope and being like, oh, be do, okay, I've got a manila envelope. I've got a big envelope and I can just stick it in there. And, I don't know if that invalidates the ballet or not, but I just don't think that, I think they'll find a few of those. I don't know if they would make it through the whole ballet process, but anyway, that's the most reasonable of the things I think they're doing, if they're doing that. And just the whole thing, I don't know. I just don't want to keep, I don't know.
It's kind of interesting to me because I almost lost a student this week because she said that when I talk about erection froggy,
Yeah,
but I use the real words in class,
sure.
she thinks that she's surrounded by insane people and she can't handle being around insane people.
Well, I mean,
So she almost quit. And the funny thing
wait, how did
is
you
that,
talk her down? How did you convince her that you're not insane?
well, let me set the stage. Everyone in my class believes that there was massive erection froggy. And
Except for this lady?
yeah, and it turns out that roughly 85% of all Republicans think that the erection was stolen through froggy by Biden. And so it's your side has been led to believe this. The reason I'm bringing this up, your side thinks that it's only a fringe bunch of kooks, and that to believe such a thing is just utter madness. People that, don't interrupt me, that think there was erection froggy should literally be put in insane asylums and given electroshock therapy. And she was telling me that she felt like she was in an insane asylum, surrounded by people that were deeply upsetting to her psyche. And I realized that that's how the Democrats are playing it. But you don't know, because you're badly informed, that almost half the country.
No, I know the statistics. I know the statistics.
Yeah. Okay. So almost half the country believes there was erection froggy. And the scary thing is, for me, as I said last week, is that your media is not preparing you for what's going to happen. So it's not good to do that because they are helping to create civil strife. I won't say civil war because I can't imagine left wingers that would go and get their shotguns and start fighting. But there, it may be hard to transition Biden out of office when you've got so many people that think that there's no evidence and they're not being prepared by their media. Basically, since we last spoke, they've begun to start. There have been leaks coming out of the Arizona froggy, the Arizona
I get it.
examination, the examination of ballets, and they're finding something like half of the ballets are froggy, and the reason, if you look at it, there are certain statistics that you can go by. I can't remember which state, but I believe it's in Arizona. The population of Arizona only went up about 200,000 in the past 4 years. And Arizona is the most Republican state in the country, it turns out.
No.
It has the highest number of Republicans. They've been electing Republican leaders for like 100 years. And it turns out that Biden got an extra roughly 400,000 Republican votes in Arizona. And people are saying, well, let's get this straight. Arizona went for Trump. Then their population increased about 200,000, but they managed to find 400,000 more Democrats in Arizona than we had 4 years ago.
You don't have to be a Democrat to vote against Trump.
No, yeah, but the problem is people don't do things because they read your newspapers and Twitter and the New York Times and CNN. People that have been voting reliably Republican for 50 to 100 years don't all of a sudden change because the New York Times came up with a good argument. So,
well, hold on. No. I mean, you just had to like watch the past 4 years. Like my mom, lifelong Republican, has voted straight Republican. So she was born in 33.
Oh, so please. I get the idea. There will be outliers that didn't like Trump, but that's not the point, Rick.
That's not the, no, she first voted for Eisenhower in 56.
Okay, please, Rick. I get the point. You're going to tell me a long story.
She says Trump makes her want to vomit.
Okay. Well, it turns out that Trump was the most popular among Republicans in the past since, I think, Nixon. When Nixon beat McGovern in the greatest landslide in history, he had similar Republican support to what Trump had 4 months ago.
What percent of the population? So what percent of the population was Republican when Nixon was in office? Probably 38%.
Rick, let me just give you a basic statistic, okay? Among Republicans, other than your mom, I understand. Trump was wildly popular. He got something like 95% support from the Republicans. Okay? Now, when you have that, Rick, when you have 95% support from your own party, states that are incredibly Republican, like Arizona, Texas, Wyoming, Utah, are not suddenly going to vote Democrat in wild landslides. It's just not going to happen.
Well, here's what you want to know the math. The math is that when Nixon was president, I would say 40% of the country was Republican, maybe more. And now 26%, 27%, 25% of the country is, when polled, says they're Republican. The Republican Party, the percentage of people, now it's the percentage of people who, it's shrunk for both major parties. The number of people, the percent of people who say they're Democrats has also shrunk. Republicans a little more, but and the percent who say they're independents has increased. There was one poll 2 months ago where fully 50, for the first time, fully 50% of U.S. voters said they're independents. It's since backed off a little bit, but the but the percent of people who identify as Republicans has shrunk into a harder, more right-wing core.
Okay.
So you can have a core that votes for Trump like 92%, but that's a smaller percentage of the overall voting population, with plenty of room for independents to peel away and vote for the other guy.
Well, we're not basing this on your perception or your theory.
I'm basing it on my statistics, which are accurate.
Okay, Rick, we're not basing it on that. The Arizona canvassers are going door to door, and they've got thousands upon thousands of signed affidavits from people that say they either didn't vote or their vote wasn't counted, or there's nobody by that name living here. We have ballets, ballets.
Who says this? Who says? Now you said it's being leaked, right? Where do the leaks show up?
Okay,
so there's
Rick. You're filibustering, but I will answer that question. The person in charge of canvassing is named Liz Harris, and she is an Arizonan that ran for Congress in November 3rd. And she thought she'd won, so she was very motivated to find out what happened. And she has several thousand canvassers that are going door to door in Mariposa County in Phoenix. And they're finding just thousands of froggy ballets. And people, they're going to places that, just before I forget, in California, for example, they just now found 3,000 ballets that came from an unoccupied building. That's in California, where we don't even have an examination of the ballets going on.
So where's the building? Where's the building?
It's a dorm in Santa Barbara University, UC Santa Barbara, University of California.
Because I want to read about it.
The dorm is called, I actually stayed there a couple of times. It's called the Francisco Torres Dorm, dormitory, where the kids sleep that go to school there. And although there's not a lot of sleeping, if you've ever been to Francisco Torres dorm building. Anyway, the point is that building was unoccupied during the erection, and they got 3,000 votes from it. And and it's not legal to send those ballets on. So in other words, if it says on the ballet that it came from that building, then it came from nobody, because nobody was there because of the lockdown. So that's 3,000 in California without even looking. They found that out. Now,
so you're saying that this is the result of some operation to harvest 3,000 votes somehow? Did the 3,000 people whose addresses were listed as being that dorm, did they actually cast their own ballots?
I don't know.
Because it sounds like some kind of administrative thing where people's addresses were still listed in them because of COVID, but that it wasn't some kind of nefarious plot.
I see. So you're asking, did the votes actually get tallied? Yeah,
No,
they did.
were the votes cast by people who lived at the dorms and who just had their mail forwarded home?
No, because it's illegal to do that because it breaks the chain of custody. So when you get a ballet, the ballet is supposed to go right to you. It can't be forwarded by law. So when these ballets showed up, somebody had filled them out, but it wasn't anybody from that dorm building.
Okay, so I want to take a break and I want to read
it.
about it for a second. My voice is let's take a break. Let me read about it for 1 second.
Okay.
Let me know. Okay. So a quick look shows that some numbers got confused with other numbers. In a voting precinct that contains the Francisco Torres dorm building, 3,000 mail-in ballots were counted. Now, this somehow became that 3,000 ballots, mail-in ballots, were counted from the Francisco Torres dorm, which is not can't be so, because that dorm only holds 1,300 students, which is still a big ass fucking dorm. But
unless, of course, the ballets are fraudulent, and they were just using that address as the fraudulent address.
Yeah, but there's only one investigative article on this, and it said that it does not say that. Then the articles based on the first article kind of get it wrong and say that 3,000 ballets came from this one building, and that's just not so.
No, that's what is being stated by the investigator, Thomas.
No, because there's the initial article by a guy named Robert Ehringer, I believe.
I'm not looking at the original article from the communist you read.
This is a guy writing for the Santa Barbara News Press, and it's a very long article.
Okay. The criminal complaint was made by Thomas Cole of Analytics 805, which monitors erections. Anyway, this individual, Thomas Cole, has been able to identify that the ballets came from Francisco Torres, regardless of what your article says.
No.
Rick, Thomas Cole says that's where they came from, and he's reported it to the police. And that's where the investigation ended. It is now in the hands of the DA of Santa Barbara.
I see all that, and I'm looking at the article that talks about Thomas Cole. And
is he a very bad man, Rick?
No, but the article that all this is based on.
Yeah.
Now hold on. Let's see. Shit. Well,
why is it so?
This article confuses,
incredible.
And the complaint confuses 3,000 ballets.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, because Thomas Cole has a business that does nothing but analyze choices. I'm not going to use the word that starts with V, in Santa Barbara. So they know which building they came from. Only a person that wants to believe lies is going to say, oh, no, they didn't know what building it was. Like you, for example, Rick, you want to believe that everything was fine. So now you've convinced yourself that the organization that does nothing but analyze these in Santa Barbara didn't know which building it was.
Well, I'm just saying that the article itself, on which all these other articles were based.
I'm not reading that article, Rick. I'm
Well, you
reading
should,
I'm
because
reading the exact
it's
quotes from Thomas Cole of Analytics at 805, which
it's
monitors elections in Goleta's precincts.
it's
Erections.
it's just not, the article itself contradicts itself.
Well, I'm not reading your article. I am telling you that
It's the mother of all the articles. It's the article that's,
No. I'm not reading the mother
okay.
of all
Well,
of your
anyway,
articles.
this is why
You're
I don't
reading,
want to.
Rick.
This is why I increasingly don't want to do the show, because I no longer want to participate in helping to promote crazy bullshit that it's.
Well, the police in Santa Barbara have turned it over to the DA, so it can't be that crazy, Rick.
Okay, but the article itself contradicts itself.
I know your article came from Google, okay? You use Google. So all the articles about erection fraud.
No, it gave me the original article, and then it gave me every article that followed, from the Gateway Pundit and the DJ Patriot and every other frickin'.
Okay,
They all have the same verbiage. They're all.
No, I'm not reading that. My article came from DuckDuckGo, which is independent of Google. And it doesn't contradict itself. But Rick, you interrupted me about a half an hour ago because I was going to tell you my news. We listened to some very heartrending descriptions of your personal life. But now we have to go on to my subject, and you won't let me talk.
Go ahead.
You interrupt me. Okay. I'm trying to relay news to people that are they're being censored by your media. For example, did you know that the state Senate of Pennsylvania,
yes, I did. I
has
do.
representatives going to Arizona to study how they can do the next erection inspection in Pennsylvania. You may also like to know that important senators from Georgia, the state of Georgia, are going to Arizona this week because both states are preparing their own inspections of the ballets. Don't interrupt me. There's also a criminal investigation in Fulton County, Georgia, that uncovered 10,000 ballets from people that don't exist, that have been entered into evidence in Fulton County. And your favorite precinct worker, Ruby Freeman, the one from the film that you said showed everything was just fine and there was nothing to see on erection night. Well, she and her daughter are now being deposed in court in Fulton County in Georgia, because it turns out that the night that they told everyone to leave, in those 2 hours that they were manning the erection machines, Biden got the spike he needed to win the state of Georgia. And it turns out that they put over 20,000 ballets through those machines in 2 hours, and they were all for Biden, which is kind of, since you're a statistics guy, you must be pretty impressed with the luck that Biden got in those 2 hours.
I think it's horseshit. I think it's all lunacy. It's all going nowhere.
Rick, think about it this way. Let me put it to you this way. It's been entered into court, and the Ruby Freeman and her daughter are being deposed. I read their deposition. I read the question that they were being asked, because Biden got 97.79% in 2 hours, which was enough. And it was the 2 hours that no one was watching them. And that was the margin that he won Georgia by.
All right,
less than
let's take a
15,000
break. Let me read the
ballets.
frickin' article. Let's read the article.
Okay.
Right. So one problem with all this is you said that this belief is that Democrats believe that this belief is limited to fringe uh, people in the Republican Party. And that's not the problem. Problem is that a huge percentage of Americans believe the bullshit that you believe. But it does, just because, I don't know, 25% of Americans believe it doesn't make it any less bullshit. I
Well,
mean,
Rick, in within the next 10 days, the inspection will be over in Arizona, and they'll be releasing the results. There will be a formal report released in at the end of June,
okay.
and the the trial in Fulton County, Georgia, is underway. So that's either going to end with proof or not.
Okay.
And the thing that Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay have to be concerned about is that erection froggy carries with it a sentence of 10 or 15 years in prison. It's a felony. And what what I think they're going to do is try to play them against each other. Just see if, will you turn evidence to save your daughter, and then say the same thing to the daughter about her mother. But one way or another, somebody asked them to do that. They didn't do it for. I
Yeah,
don't
why
think they
would
did,
they do that?
because if they didn't, Georgia was going to be won by the Republicans.
All right. So enough of this shit. Let's,
Well, wait. I just I don't want to end it with you just saying, well, it's all horseshit.
it is
Um,
all horseshit though. And it
okay,
bums me out to
but
be,
but what I wanted to say was that the number of states is increasing. It's not getting smaller that are doing inspections, that have committed to doing inspections.
that's not
And
evidence of fucking anything.
no, it isn't. But you have to be prepared for an outcome you may not like, Rick. It's not, the reason that these people are looking at these things and they haven't stopped. Let me explain something statistically, because you'll like this. And this is important. Don't interrupt me. I happen to know somebody that does statistics on erections. And one of the great things about it is you can find out in the first batch of ballets that you inspect whether there's going to be froggy. The reason is that suppose you have 10,000 ballets. If you think that 10% of those ballets are froggy, you'll find a certain percentage in that first thousand. If there is froggy of 10 or 20 or 30%, it's going to come out in the first batch. And what's happening is these in Arizona, they're getting more and more excited. They didn't go the first week, find nothing, and say, well, we didn't find anything in this 10,000 ballets. What makes you think we're going to find anything in the next 90,000 or the next 900,000? But the truth is that the rumors are that the more they look, the more excited they get, the more committed they are. Which means if you know anything about how they analyze ballets statistically, normally after an erection, when they do an inspection, they don't inspect every single ballet. What they do is they take 10%. And if they don't find any froggy in that 10%, then they can bet that it's going to be a clean election or erection. See what I'm saying? So I our forces are getting more and more confident. That's all I have to say. We can move on now.
Okay. Except, I mean, I think Arizona's already been audited 3 times.
Those weren't audits. They just checked whether the machines were working. That's why everyone was so upset. They never checked the ballets. All they did was the only
All
thing
right.
that
So,
happened.
okay. That's another reason I only want to do this fucking show every 2 weeks, because you've got all this stuff that's supposed to happen in the next 10 days. So I want to see the results that you say, because like
Okay, that's fine. I have another subject. Can I move on? It's a different
you
subject.
wanted to talk about Fauci.
Yeah.
Okay.
About it. No, no, no. The director tried to make a joke, and I don't want to talk about what the director said. I want to say this.
You don't want to say what I
Or
say, which is wait
no,
and see.
no, no. Well, this is what I want to say, Rick. About a year and a half ago, I told you that this was probably a Chinese bioweapon. That the virus, the Wuhan virus, was either an accident or a deliberate biological weapon against the U.S. And I knew this about a year and a half ago because I knew that bats don't naturally create this virus. That it's doing things. It has certain sequences of genes or proteins. I don't know exactly which, but there are things in. I could look up the exact things, but there are things in it that aren't found in nature. So I knew a year and a half ago, last March, that this was created in a lab. And every time I tried to mention to you that it was not, that it was probably Chinese bio research, weapons research, you always said, "Oh no, 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 that's been debunked. That's been debunked."
Okay. So
And so my question to you is, now that it's proven that Fauci and the Democrats were lying all along, because I guess they didn't want to blame China, their buddies in communist China. Do you feel embarrassed and foolish for having voted for the Democrats and believed them and fought for their arguments for a year and a half?
no. And I don't know a lot about this, but apparently there's some evidence, or more evidence now than there was, that, I mean, there was always the idea that, um, I mean, yeah, that what was said, I don't know, a year and a half ago is that, originated in bats, somehow, getting taken to these wet markets in Wuhan, and then from there to a lab where they were fucking around with the stuff, and it got out of the lab.
No, you believed that it came from bats, and whenever I said this was from a Chinese lab, you said, "Oh, that's been debunked. That's been debunked."
Okay, well, to the extent that I said it came directly from bats, then um, and that other stuff, I guess what's the deal is that now that looking back, like Fauci knew there was a non-zero chance it came from a lab is the deal.
No, it turns out that the Democrats under Fauci and the Obama administration were actually funding something called gain of function research. What that is you take a virus, usually from a bat because they have the most virus of any other animal, and you take it to a lab and you see how you can make this virus more dangerous to humans. It's called gain of function, meaning it
Okay.
does something that it doesn't normally do.
Okay.
And so what they did was in this lab in Wuhan, which was funded by the Democrats under Fauci, is they created a virus that could kill humans in unprecedented numbers. And it was the Democrats' fault. And instead of admitting from the very beginning that he knew that, Fauci pretended that it came from bats and that someone had eaten a bat in a wet market. And when Trump sort of innocently said, maybe this was biological weapons research gone bad, everyone said Trump was lying. And now it turns out Trump was right and the Democrats were lying.
All right. So I only buy some of that, and I want to take
Well,
a break. I want to
you would
read.
know, wouldn't you?
What?
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just let me read about Fauci and gain of function for like
Okay.
3 minutes.
All
Sorry.
right. All right.
Lance might be frozen here. Lance is looking quite.
Are you
Lance,
talking to me? Are we back?
yeah,
Are
we're
we
back.
on again?
Yeah,
right.
here we go. Here we go.
Okay.
All right. So,
So,
all right. So I read stuff for like a minute and a half, and I don't think I maintained a year and a half ago that the stuff couldn't have escaped from a lab. Um, so I, I don't know what, like Fauci.
well,
I read what
well,
Fauci said for half a second, and he didn't think it was man-made. Um,
I'm losing you. You're frozen.
okay, we should.
No, no, I can hear you now. I think I had to turn something off.
Okay, like I never maintained that it wasn't possible that it was a lab fuck up. But they had the
Well,
shit in the
actually,
lab. They were the only thing that's different is that I didn't know about is that they were doing gain of function research.
I can't. You're breaking up.
So what are we going to do? Should we adjourn for the night? Should
Well,
we?
you're okay. I can hear you now.
Okay. Well, all right. The only thing that I think is different in what we kind of know now is that we didn't know back then is that they were doing gain of function research. Has that been substantiated, or is it just based
Well,
on
yeah,
the
actually.
genome?
Okay, I'm losing you again.
Yeah. So, hey, director, because this is no good.
All right. Well, I can hear you now. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Director
All
says
right.
he or she
So
can
it cut.
hear everything. Okay.
All right. So let's start over again. Go ahead. You read your article.
No, no, we don't need to start over because. All right. So a year and a half ago, Fauci said he thought it was unlikely that the virus emerged from a lab, but he didn't say categorically that it couldn't have.
No, actually, he did say that he denied everything. He said it came from bats, and he went into I saw a video today where he described how it came from bats,
All right, but he
and
didn't
that
say
this is
he said it wasn't impossible that it came from a lab. He didn't conclusively deny that.
okay,
So,
Rick. As much as I enjoy uh, uh, beating you on this, I can't hear you because of the you're freezing again. All right, you're back.
okay. Well,
All right, look, Rick, this is, I anticipated that you would try to slither out of this. And so I'm going to tell you, I don't know what you imagine you said, but you never acknowledged that this was a possible Chinese biological weapon.
yeah, I still
You
don't.
kept saying it was,
I mean, it's. I would still like bet $2,000 that yeah, if it came from that, it wasn't an intentionally engineered bioweapon.
okay. So, um, what Fauci's emails say, we have Fauci on record saying that it came from bats. I saw the video this afternoon
Okay.
of him saying this came from bats.
Okay.
And it turns out that while he was saying that, he was sending secret emails back and forth to people that he had been paying to do gain of function research. And they were talking about, what they were going to say and how important it was to get the story straight. And it turns out that Fauci had been giving millions of dollars to a lab in Wuhan that was creating viruses from bats that could infect humans.
So why do
And
people do gain of function research? Why do they do it?
okay, well, there's only two reasons to do it. The first reason is because you're trying to create a biological weapon.
And the second reason
Uh, is that you're trying to think what would happen if this did happen? How would we approach it to try to fend off another pandemic?
yeah.
But the problem is today they found out that the Chinese were already working on a vaccine for this particular virus. So they were working on a virus that would kill everyone but the people that were in China that got the vaccine. In other words, it's the perfect biological weapon because if you do manage to get it to kill people and then you release it, but your country has the vaccine already, then your country survives and everybody else is wiped out. And it
Really?
looks like
I mean, this is the
that's what they
deadliest
were
event
doing.
in U.S. history, but we're hardly wiped out. One
No,
person,
but they one thing that the Chinese didn't anticipate if they did do this is that Trump would manage to come up with a vaccine for us in less than a
God,
year,
oh,
which was an astounding thing. Nobody expected that. Not Fauci, not any of the Democrats, not anyone in the world, frankly. So what Trump did is he mobilized American technology and pharmaceutical industry to such an extent with Operation Warp Speed that they came up with a vaccine in record time. But what we know right now is that when Trump said there was probably an accident from a lab, the Democrats lied and refused to accept it. And it would have made a big difference because if we knew that it was an accident from a lab, then we could have saved a lot of lives by forcing China to give us tours of that lab and tell us what they knew. They could always say, we're not going to tell you. But
I don't
it also
remember.
would have
I,
taken some of the other
I
thing.
always
The other
wait.
thing
Hold
the
on, because you're.
Democrats were
I
trying to.
feel like everything comes through you twisted. I don't remember. I remember thinking it was somewhat reasonable to think. Now maybe I'm misremembering, but to think that a lab accident was among the possibilities. Do you remember me saying no? It couldn't
Well,
have
Rick, I
happened.
don't know. I don't know what was going on. I don't know what was going on in your mind. So if you want to clarify to me what you've been thinking for the past year, you can. Did you think it was from a bat or did you think it was a lab accident?
I
I
thought it
know
was.
what I thought. Hey,
I thought it was
hey,
fucking. I thought it was both. I thought, or at least among the
you thought it was
possibilities,
both.
that
Well,
I mean,
that's not what the
the
Democrats said.
possibilities were it was from a bat, or it was from a bat, and they were working with the shit in the lab, and there was a fuck up. And I probably thought it was more reasonable to think it was straight up from a bat. I guess to be honest with you, but I think a
Okay,
lab
well,
accident was not. I didn't eliminate that from consideration unless somebody told me that it was 100% impossible, that they were working with the shit in a lab, and then people got sick. So it's obviously reasonable to think there was some kind of lab fuck up. Either,
Okay, well,
I mean, they were
Rick, up
working with the
until
shit
now,
in the lab. So there's only two possibilities. And I mean, there's a possibility that it was malevolent, or that it was accidental, or some
no,
combination.
that's a different,
But the deal is,
that's a different issue.
the
Yes.
deal is, they were, it was, it was a bat virus, but they were working with in a lab. So there are two possibilities. One is it goes direct from bats to people. Two is it goes from the lab where they're fucking around with it, with a bat virus, to people. So,
Rick, I'm tired of trying to make you feel like you were wrong. I'm just going to tell you that being a well-informed Republican, since last year, since March of last year, I assumed that it was created in a lab by Chinese biological warfare scientists. And today, this week, it turned out with the release of Fauci's emails that he was funding those biological warfare labs, and that he was very, very concerned that there may have been an accident. And it turns out that he also lied about the masks that you are so much in love with. Now, he also said a
now, how
year
did
and
he
a half
lie
ago,
about the masks?
I will answer if you don't interrupt me. There's actually an email from Fauci where he says that the masks don't really protect you from getting it
They protect other
because
people from you breathing out the shit.
right, but the problem is, according to Dr. Fauci, who you've been wearing a face diaper for a year and a half, according to Dr. Fauci, the virus is too small to be held to be held back by a normal mask. And so the masks that you see people wearing really don't do any good. And Fauci knew that a year and a half ago, but he made people like you into uninformed, ignorant zombies wearing face diapers very proudly and being very angry at people that don't wear face diapers. Don't
Yeah,
you
so
feel like a fool?
no, because like N95 masks get the droplets, right? An
I
N90,
didn't hear you. You're frozen again.
an N95 mask is effective, right? And it took a while to
Well,
reach
the
that.
problem the problem, Rick, is that most people, I think, in a typical day, I don't see more than 1 out of 50 people wearing an N95. It turns out in fact, not only do the normal little blue masks not really work, according to Dr. Fauci, but they may even increase, they may have even led to deaths because people thought they were safe when they were standing next to each other, both wearing masks. And it turns out that Dr. Fauci knew a year and a half ago that masks don't really work because the virus gets through it's too small to be held back. So don't you kind of feel like you've been lied to and betrayed?
Not really, because people found out shit over the course of Fauci followed different strategies. He probably made some mistakes, and people
No, but
found out
it,
more
it
stuff.
turns out, Rick,
It took
Rick,
a
it
couple
turns
months
out
to
that
figure out
Fauci
that.
knew from the very beginning. It turns out that Fauci knew at the very beginning, in March of last year, that normal masks wouldn't hold back the virus. And guess what else? I knew I knew. The one that didn't know was anybody that followed Democrat propaganda.
I don't know. Should we break and I can read the whole story on Fauci and the masks?
I don't think we have time, Rick. I just wish that
Well,
your
no, because
media
I've got
was
it teed up.
informing
I've
you.
got an editorial from some conservative guy writing in the Hill who says that we shouldn't like Fauci anymore because of these emails. So let me read that article. It'll take 1 minute. Here we go. Here we freaking go.
Yeah, I can barely hear you. Everyone's ignoring it. That's kind of the way it goes. Other artists are jealous, so they're not paying any attention to it. Was that recorded?
Hello, are you still
Yes,
taping? Because
no,
I
I
can
can't
read
hear
the
you.
paragraph.
You know what?
Okay.
I got it.
Hello? All right. So
You,
this is from some conservative guy's editorial from the Hill.
I'm only getting every.
All right. So it says, but you can hear it, director, right? One email from February 2020 shows Fauci stating that retail masks aren't really effective in protecting people from the COVID. The typical mask you buy in a drugstore is not really effective in keeping out virus, which is small enough to pass through material. It might, however, provide some slight benefit to keep out gross droplets if someone coughs or sneezes on you. So this is during a period where Fauci is sending out 2,000 emails a day. I don't know, just on the basis of one email in February. I'm not willing to throw the Fauci baby out with the bathwater.
So today you found out that he was funding gain of function research for biological warfare in the Wuhan lab. We gave millions to that lab, according to the direction of Dr. Fauci, and you still believe in him. You still love Dr. Fauci and would listen to his words.
Yep. Because I don't think it was
All
biowarfare.
right, listen,
I
I
think it
think
was
this is
a
a good
setup. I
time to.
think in the future,
Okay,
people will be more careful in.
I can't hear you anymore. You're frozen. I think we should stop now. I've made my points because I can't hear you anymore.
Fine.
Well, I
If
know
we
you
can't hear
can, but
each
I'm
other,
only
we
getting
can't
every other
argue
word.
with each other. Um,
All
oh,
right,
wait
I
a
can hear
second.
you
I
now.
do
Go
want to
ahead.
talk about
So
one more.
you still believe in Fauci? You think he's a great man, and you would take his advice, even though
Yeah,
he actually funded he even now that you know that he funded the research that created the virus that turned that killed so many millions of people. You think that he's a
I
very
think
nice
that's
man.
a glib simplification.
Well, Rick, let me explain something to you. Countries don't create these viruses because of things like this could possibly happen. Do you know that it was illegal even during part of Obama's administration because they thought, you really can't be playing around with these viruses. It's too dangerous. So even not only was Trump against funding it, but Obama was against funding it, and somehow Fauci got it through, and then he lied about his own role. He lied. He said, "Oh,
Yeah.
this came from bats." And you think I'm making a gross simplification?
Um, hold on. That same article talks about this.
I can't hear. I can't hear. I gotta go. I'm going.
All
I
right,
can't
you
hear.
go. Let me hang
Goodbye.
on for one
Bye.
sec. Um, okay, so this editorial attacking Fauci, Rand Paul, that famous authority on not much anything. Um, you know that Rand Paul, I don't want to talk about, fuck him. The Rand Paul says the emails show that Fauci was worrying that he had been funding gain of function research. Um, so I don't think it was, I don't know, I'd have to read more on this. Um, okay. And I don't think he was intentionally funding it. And then once, I don't know, I'd have to read more about it. Um, I will mention one more thing because I think it's not really fun. Um, uh, Florida, for the past month and a half, has been leading the nation in daily new cases of COVID, and on many, many days, daily COVID deaths. So Florida just decided to quit releasing daily COVID statistics. So that's fun. Okay, we should wrap it up. That was kind of a clusterfuck. But I want to, we've been going about once every 10 days with this stuff, and I kind of want to, I think, I mean, shit isn't, we don't, Trump's not president anymore. So we don't have, you know, I think we can go every 10 days or 2 weeks. You okay with that? Okay. Let's plan on that. Yeah. So if you don't mind people hearing your voice because you're trying to remain semi-anonymous, then we can leave. Okay. All right. Anyway, we're gonna go. Yeah, just okay. Thanks for watching. Sorry for for my zadness and for the technical problems, and thanks for watching. All right.